Hi, my name is Shaun Phillips and I'd like to tell you the story about Flappy and Whiskers go to the park that I wrote for my children. Flappy the penguin and Whiskers the sea lion were going for a day out at the new playground in Wetlands Park. It was so new they'd only been finished last week and they're both very excited about being some of the first to try out the new rides. Just as they were about to leave home to go to the park, it started to rain. Now I know what you're wondering, and it's good to wonder. Surely penguins and sea lions like the rain. They both knew if the rides were wet they might slide off and hurt themselves. So Flappy and Whiskers thought about what they were going to do instead while they waited for the rain to stop. Flappy didn't like waiting. He preferred to be kept busy, doing things that were lots of fun. Whiskers noticed some bits of cardboard that were going to be recycled and started thinking about what she could make. Flappy said, "I wish we had a playground at home." "That's it," Whiskers cried. "We can make our playground for our toys to use with this cardboard." "That's a great idea," said Flappy. "I'll get the glue and scissors." "Make sure you ask before you take them," Whiskers called after him. Flappy wasn't listening, as he was so excited about making the playground. When Flappy came back, he was carrying some scissors, some sticky tape, and a bottle of what looked like glue. As they started to glue bits of the cardboard together, they noticed something strange about the glue. It wasn't sticky. In fact, it was slippery. "This looks like washing up liquid," Whiskers said to Flappy. "Did you ask before you borrowed it?" Flappy didn't answer. Instead, he picked up the scissors, sticky tape and washing up liquid and went to get the glue. After a few minutes, he returned with the tape, scissors and the correct glue bottle. He then puffed up his chest and said very importantly, "We're allowed to use them as long as we are careful. Use them properly and tidy up afterwards." They then spent the rest of the morning making their playground. After they had some lunch, the sun had come out and dried up all the rain. "Hooray!" shouted Flappy and rushed off to get his coat. Now I know what you're thinking. Penguins don't normally wear coats, and you're right, except they do in this story. Flappy and Whiskers set off for the park. Both were very excited, especially Flappy, who was just about to run across the road when Whiskers called out, "Stop!" Flappy stopped and looked on the road to a car that was coming towards them. So they waited until the car had gone and crossed the road safely. Now they're at the gates of the park, only to find the park keeper, Mr. Walrus, looking very puzzled. "What are you doing, Mr. Walrus?" Whiskers asked. "I seem to be missing some pieces for one of the rides, and I've lost the instructions on how to put it together," said Mr. Walrus. "So I won't be able to open the park until it's finished." "Oh no," said Flappy and Whiskers together. "Wait a minute," Whiskers said to Mr. Walrus. "Flappy and I are very good at making things, especially playgrounds." Flappy grinned. Mr. Walrus smiled. "Any help would be very much appreciated," he said. So Flappy and Whiskers set off in different directions to look for pieces of the ride. Before too long, Flappy came across a funny looking ride that was on the floor of the playground. It was a long shiny piece of metal with sides that curved up. He sat in and found he could move up and down his bottom and decided this was his very own special ride. After a while, he decided he would start looking for the missing parts again, so he got up and set off. He then found Whiskers looking at two long pieces of wood, connected with lots of smaller pieces of wood. "What's that?" Flappy asked. "I think it's a ladder," said Whiskers. Flappy started to think maybe his special ride was one of the missing pieces. It couldn't be, he thought. "It's my special ride." At that moment, Mr. Walrus was wandering as he did over to Flappy and Whiskers, and he asked them how they were getting on. "We've only found one piece," said Whiskers. "Oh dear. It looks like we won't be opening today then," said Mr. Walrus as he wandered off again. Whiskers turned to speak to Flappy, only to find he'd disappeared. A few minutes later, Flappy returned with his special ride. He wanted to keep it all for himself, and he knew there was so much more fun to be had when everyone used it. "What is that for?" asked Whiskers. "I think it goes with the ladder, to make a slide," replied Flappy. "Great thinking, Flappy," said Whiskers. Together they put the slide together. They had just finished when Mr. Walrus returned. "Well, well, well," said Mr. Walrus. "You kids are really good at making things." "I think Flappy should have first go," said Whiskers. "Good idea," said Mr. Walrus. "I will let the other kids in to have some fun." Flappy and Whiskers had a great time playing at the park with their friends. By the time they had finished, they were feeling very tired indeed. So they went home and slept until the morning when it was time to get up for school. Thank you for listening.